Now, for more on this story, we can bring in our international affairs commentator, Douglas Herbert. Doug, following on rather from those devastating floods which we saw in Germany over the summer, has the climate taken center stage in this campaign?
As center as you can get. I mean, the climate flooding, those torrential rains, the flooding was a major wake-up call, which thrust the ecological, environmental issues really to front and center stage in this election. Now, Angela Merkel's record has been sort of mixed when it comes to the climate. On the one hand, she is known for perhaps one of the biggest announcements of her chancellorship back in March 2011 when she announced the gradual phasing out and closure of Germany's nuclear power plants by 2022, i.e. next year. Here's the problem with that. The idea is obviously to have renewables, mostly wind and solar energy, replace the lost nuclear energy to generate electricity. Germany's electricity grid is under a lot of pressure now because it's not a very sunny place. The sun and wind power is not always there. The reality has been that for now, a lot of that nuclear power has been replaced by coal. And coal, as we know, is a highly polluting form of generating energy. The coal is not supposed to be phased out until 2038. So 17 years from now. It's a long time. And what's happening as it's not just coal, but in the meantime, the reliance in the future is also going to be on beyond coal, on renewables and gas. And it helps explain one of the reasons why Germany has been such a proponent of that Russian gas pipeline, Nord Stream 2, from Russia into Germany. There are a lot of problems right now in making this transition. The nuclear announcement was something that was widely applauded by anti-nuclear people who love seeing the plants closed down. But on the other hand, Germany hasn't come up with the right mix of the solutions yet in terms of finding enough renewable energies to avoid having really a shutdown of the electricity grid or a lot of strain on it.
And what will be the biggest challenges facing Germany's next chancellor?
Yeah, well, one of them is what I just mentioned, the environment. You know, Germany, Angela Merkel has set a carbon neutral, that means no net carbon emissions, by 2045 goal. That is quite a hard goal, and you're going to need someone who is a real climate activist to see through to those targets and to stay the course. That's what all those climate activists right now that we just saw in those pictures earlier with Greta Thunberg, they're basically calling on politicians to keep their eye on the ball, and that's one of the big ones. But you have a whole other things. Right now you have an economy which in some senses is deglobalizing, and little private trade networks are creeping up. How is this going to affect an industrial export-driven powerhouse such as Germany, right? You know as well as anyone at France 24 that the exports are such the lodestone of everything for Germany. If those exports are threatened in any way, if those networks of exports and supply chains are threatened in any way, that could have a big impact in Germany. Germany also, perhaps surprisingly to a lot of our viewers, it's behind on digitalization, and the digitalization drive, getting more digital computing and more technology into the German economy.
Even paying by card in Germany is a
difficult.
challenge.
You know it if you've ever
cash.
been there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and so you think of it, this modern booming, the engine economy of Europe, and yet on the digital front, it is not done too great. Investment also might be a big thing because, Merkel, and she's gotten a lot of praise for this, has, held the debt line, and she's been staunch, not letting debt grow too big a pile. But the problem is a lot of people say at the end of the day, Germany does need investment, and that might need more taxes as well. So investment is going to be a big issue going forward. Where will that money come from, and how do you invest a lot of money and start spending a lot of money without going into more debt?
We'll see what happens on Sunday. Thank you very much for that, Doug. Douglas Herbert there.